Ladies and gentlemen, we have an update from the Trump trials. The J6 trial with Tanya Chutkan had the teams in her courtroom for the first time in almost a year. Now, this was basically for Trump's pleading, formally entering a plea with the reintroduced indictments from Jack Smith. These, if you remember correctly, were pulled down about 6 months ago-ish, before the Supreme Court and the presidential immunity decision was handed down, in preparation for that decision, knowing that it was going to end up there. Now, of course, it started out with Donald Trump's team pleading not guilty. He had an option to be there. Obviously, he wasn't going to be there. So John Lauro basically pled that he is not guilty. Now, the important parts of this are pretty interesting. The first thing that Trump's team said was that Jack Smith should not be on this case. He was improperly appointed and blah, blah, blah. All of that other stuff, all the stuff. He brought up Judge Aileen Cannon and her comments having to do with that. And then he said something very, very interesting. He said that Judge Clarence Thomas encouraged him, directed him and his team to bring up this issue. This raised some red flags for Judge Chutkan, because he's a Supreme Court justice giving defense advice to the Trump team. That is wrong on 20 different levels. Besides all of the other stuff that Clarence Thomas and the Trump team does wrong, that was just over and beyond. So she made a note of that. Both sides were supposed to be filing the briefs of what to do next in order to move forward. Now, remember, this particular set of trials is specifically because the Supreme Court threw it back to the states, threw it back to Judge Chutkan, for the court, for the judge to determine what's presidential and what is personal. Now, having done that, it gave the opportunity to basically have evidentiary hearings in every little tiny piece to decide whether or not it's done or not, which means there's a potential for a whole lot of evidence coming out that we wouldn't be able to see until the trial happens, which would not get here before the election. I made a couple of videos on this, and this is what I was talking about. Now, in this hearing today, Judge Chutkan told them that the judge in Florida's opinion about Jack Smith being special counsel does not really matter, because basically it's her courtroom. And she doesn't agree with her. In addition to the little comment about Clarence Thomas, she had said that it will be moving forward no matter what. She had said that these indictments that he just reintroduced were reformulated, taking out every bit of evidence, every bit of anything that Jack Smith thought the court or the jury or whatever would see as a presidential type of thing. So took out Mike Pence's testimonies, took out certain things that they would be used against the indictments going forward. And then Jack Smith and his team reintroduced it and basically had an entirely new grand jury convening and hearing to make sure the grand jury will look at all of the evidence that he put together, minus the immunity stuff, whether or not it was worthy to proceed. That was all, beyond the shadow of a doubt, guilt across the board. All 12 voted guilt beyond the shadow of a doubt. So that's how it moved forward. That's how we got here. They pled not guilty to that, as usual, obviously. Judge Chutkan had to ask them when these briefs, the next set of filings, will be finished. Jack Smith said September 26th would be just fine, giving 3 weeks for both sides to complete their stuff. Of course, Trump's team was like, that's not enough. We have to have entirely new trials because this is new charges. New charges should mean new trials. And Chutkan's like, no. So shot that down. She also made a comment about the Mike Pence side of this, and that she may need to get more information on the Mike Pence. She may need to do more investigation on the Mike Pence, leading to the possibility that she may call Mike Pence in to testify in this stuff. She may just go over paperwork. Either way, it opens up the possibilities for new evidence coming to light before the election. Now, when Trump's team tried to bitch about only having 3 weeks, her response was, you have had over a year. It's not 3 weeks. And even if you didn't have all that time before, 3 weeks is more than enough time to do what you got to do. So tough. She said she will put that on her calendar, but it's not official yet. She will put her official ruling today at some point to make the calendar concrete. Okay, so what's expected on the 26th? This is what happens next. Jack Smith is putting together, and he stated this in the hearing today, the files within the paperwork he is putting forth to the court to show evidence of everything. Now, in these will be witness testimony, witness evidence, anything leading up to J6 that goes along with how Donald Trump was basically running the show and what his culpability is and criminality is. Now, the transcripts will include grand jury transcripts. It will include all the new information that has come out since and the transcripts. It would include the FBI 302 files, which are recordings of witness testimony, video and audio, transcripts of all the witness testimony from the FBI side of the investigation, documentary evidence of not only all the FBI investigation, but also of the other transcripts and other witnesses that are being put forth in this brief, and all the evidence. I mean, what they have. So all of this evidence will be presented to the court on what's probably going to be the 26th of September. Even though there will not be an actual physical trial before the election. That's important. Trump's defense tried to say, hey, 3 weeks isn't enough time. And let me remind you, Judge, there's an election going on, and we've got to end the election. Judge Chutkan wasn't having it. Judge Chutkan said this doesn't have anything to do with politics, doesn't have anything to do with the election. This is about criminal indictments and a criminal defendant. I'm moving forward. Basically, screw the election and to you too. I feel the 26th is the date. I feel that's going to happen. I feel this evidence that's coming out right now on the 26th that will be filed, a majority of that will end up being public information because it's a hearing. Anything that's not classified, not redacted, we should have decent access to. There's already been, little drips and drabs from the Jack Smith camp that the most damning evidence will be out before the election, and I believe this is it. So September 26th, we're going to find out a lot about behind the scenes of J6. It's important. I've always said the evidence is more important than the conviction because people who are going to the polls need to know what actually went on. If he ends up in jail, great. If he doesn't, whatever. He just can't end up in the White House because the stuff that's going to come out will show good majority of what he did. We got to pay attention to this. This isn't all that's happening this month. Again, it's only the 5th of September, and on the 18th we have the sentencing hearing from Judge Merchan. Now, the sentencing hearing in the Merchan case, the judge's daughter and the company she works for was just subpoenaed by Jim Jordan. That subpoena by Jim Jordan is being looked at as an abuse of power, which also leads to investigation against Jim Jordan. And you subpoena a judge's family member right before that judge sentences you. This is going to be an interesting month for Donald John Trump. So stay tuned, grab your popcorn, this will be fun. Stay diligent, stay educated, and be kind. We are all in this together. Justice is coming.